Welcome to my channel. Have you ever wondered how America, a young nation by global standards, managed to outpace Europe and become the world's most powerful superpower? The answer lies in the hands of 5 remarkable men, often called the builders of America. They didn't just make money. They reshaped entire industries, changed how people live, and turned the U.S. into a global empire. Today, we're diving deep into their stories. In today's world, most billionaires come from the tech world, people like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. But if we want to meet the wealthiest businessman of all time, we have to go back over 100 years. His name was John D. Rockefeller, and he built something so powerful that it became the biggest monopoly in human history. His empire? Standard Oil. Now, Standard Oil wasn't always a giant. It started small. Let's rewind to 1839 in New York, where John was born to William Rockefeller, a snake oil salesman with a complicated family life. William had multiple wives and children, but eventually abandoned most of them, forming an odd family setup with one woman named Nancy Brown. John grew up learning not to rely on others for money. His father always said, "I don't have any." So John started working for neighbors to earn his own cash. At 15, his family moved to Cleveland, Ohio, and John, already addicted to the taste of money, decided school was a waste of time. By 16, he dropped out and took a job as a bookkeeper, earning 50 cents a day, about $14 today. Even though he worked better than most adults, his pay didn't go up because he was just a kid. So at 18, he quit, gathered his savings, took a loan, and opened his own business. Even as a teen, he knew how to make money. He'd buy goods from farmers and sell them to stores, making decent profits. By 1857, at only 18 years old, he was pulling in what would today be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Everyone in Cleveland knew his name. Then, in 1859, America's first oil well was discovered near his office. But crude oil back then wasn't that valuable. It was mainly used to produce kerosene for lamps. Rockefeller was fascinated by this new resource. He devoured every article about oil he could find and realized something others didn't. The crude oil itself wasn't valuable. It was the refined products, especially kerosene, that had worth. Soon, oil wells popped up across Pennsylvania, and John had a brilliant idea. Buy crude oil cheap, refine it into high-quality kerosene, and dominate the market. In 1863, when railroads connected Pennsylvania's oil fields to Cleveland, Rockefeller saw his moment. With 6 years of business profits saved up, he built his own refinery and hired the best chemists to make the purest kerosene possible. What began with a $7,000 investment exploded into an empire. By 1865, his refinery was worth over $1.18 million in today's money. But he didn't stop there. Other refiners couldn't match his product's quality. John used his brilliance to quietly buy them out. He'd invite owners, show them how much more profit his company made, and offer to buy their struggling refineries, while hiring them with better pay than they were earning before. Within a decade, by 1880, Standard Oil controlled 90% of America's refining business, the largest monopoly ever seen. His power grew to the point where he influenced railroad pricing, paid the highest freight rates to get priority, and squeezed out competition. The U.S. government stepped in, realizing monopolies like his threatened fair markets. But Rockefeller stayed one step ahead. He split Standard Oil into 40 smaller companies, each technically independent but still under his control. It fooled the law and kept his empire strong. By 1890, he owned 20,000 oil wells, 60,500 kilometers of pipeline, and employed over 100,000 people. The timing was perfect. The global oil age was just beginning. In 1908, Iran's first major oil discovery added to the boom, but by then, Rockefeller's empire was already unmatched. His wealth was so vast, he even loaned money to the U.S. government. When he died in 1937, his fortune was estimated at over $400 billion in today's dollars, more than any businessman in history. Now, let's meet another builder of America, Henry Ford. Born in 1863 in Michigan to a farming family, he grew up watching his father toil endlessly on the land. Farming was tough back then. No machines, just sweat and hope the weather wouldn't ruin the harvest. Henry hated it. But being just 12 kilometers from Detroit, the heart of industrial innovation, he started falling in love with machinery. By 12, he was obsessed with how things worked. He'd take apart neighbors' broken watches just to see what was inside. At 14, he saw his first steam engine, and it changed his life. Determined to understand it, he applied for jobs at rail companies but was told to come back at 16. When he did, instead of the railroad, he joined a shop that repaired steam engines. By 17, he witnessed a new marvel, a gasoline engine built in Germany by Nikolaus Otto. Unlike steam engines, this one used gas as fuel. Henry couldn't stop thinking about it, but he didn't fully understand how the ignition system worked, so he took a job at Edison Electric to learn about electricity. He climbed the ranks quickly and became general manager by 28. That same year, he built his own gasoline engine, and then a car. In 1896, at age 33, he completed his first vehicle, called the quadricycle. It had no radiator and overheated quickly. Still, someone offered him $200 for it, equivalent to $6,000 today. He sold it, built another, then kept improving. In 1899, he founded the Ford Motor Company. Investors lined up because they knew him from his Edison days. But the first 2 years were a disaster. They only made 20 cars. Many investors pulled out, and Ford was left broke again. But like every great success story, he didn't give up. Instead, he invented something that changed the world, the assembly line. In 1906, using a new facility, Ford created a line where workers each handled one task, speeding up production. By 1908, the iconic Model T was born, cheap, reliable, and only came in black to keep costs down. At first, the Model T cost $850, but by 1916, with mass production, it dropped to $360. Ford's dream was for every American to own a car, and it worked. By the 1920s, more than 60% of U.S. cars were Model Ts. His factories grew so powerful that during W2s, even Boeing used them to mass-produce bombers. Ford didn't just build cars, he built the middle class. Now meet Cornelius Vanderbilt, born in 1794, to poor Dutch immigrants in New York. At age 11, he left school to help his father with ferry boats. But young Cornelius had ambition. At 16, he borrowed $100 from his mother and bought a small boat to start his own ferry service. He undercut prices so dramatically that competitors went bankrupt, and he bought their boats dirt cheap. By 18, he owned over 10 boats. The War of 1812 boosted his business when the government contracted him to move supplies. He got rich, married his cousin, and had 13 children, but never really cared much for family life. He just wanted to win. When steamships arrived, he switched immediately, selling his old sailboats and reinvesting everything. He was ruthless. He'd drop prices to kill competition, suffer losses for a year, and then scoop up bankrupt rivals. He did the same thing when he entered the railroad business, after age 60. Within years, he owned more railroad lines than anyone in the country and became one of the richest Americans ever, dying in 1877 with a fortune equivalent to over $200 billion today. Andrew Carnegie's story is different. Born poor in Scotland in 1835, his family moved to the U.S. in search of opportunity. In Pittsburgh, Andrew began working as a messenger for a telegraph company. He was sharp, so sharp, he could memorize messages instantly. His talent caught the eye of Thomas Scott, a businessman who gave him a better-paying job. During the Civil War, Carnegie didn't want to serve, so he paid $850 for a substitute, equivalent to $28,000 today. At the time, bridges were made of wood and easily burned. He realized iron could replace wood and created the Keystone Bridge Company. Soon after, he moved into steel production, adopting Henry Bessemer's new method to make steel cheap and strong. Carnegie's steel built America's railroads and skyscrapers. He was tough on workers, demanding 10-hour days and only giving 1 day off a year. Despite this, he was praised in newspapers as a great philanthropist. In truth, he was a brilliant but harsh boss. Eventually, he sold his entire empire to another man on our list, J.P. Morgan. J.P. Morgan, born in 1837, came from a wealthy banking family, but his father refused to spoil him. When young Morgan thought he was being gifted $1 million, his father instead said, "Learn to make this on your own." Morgan studied at the best schools, battled health issues for years, and eventually entered banking. His big break came when he bought old Army rifles for $350, refurbished them, and sold them back to the government for $22 each. He was criticized but also admired for his brilliance. He later co-founded what we now know as J.P. Morgan Chase and became one of the most powerful financiers in history. He invested in Thomas Edison and helped create General Electric. When the U.S. faced a financial crisis in 1893, Morgan stepped in and bought $650 million in government bonds, essentially saving the country's economy. But this move scared many Americans. For the first time, it felt like businessmen had more power than the government itself. These 5 men, Rockefeller, Ford, Vanderbilt, Carnegie, and Morgan, were not just rich. They built the foundations of modern America. Their ambition, vision, and relentless drive shaped everything from energy and transportation to manufacturing and finance. What do you think? Which one of these titans would you fear or admire the most? Let me ask you something. If these 5 men built America in the past, who do you think is building America today? Is it Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, maybe someone we've barely heard of yet? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear who you believe is shaping the future of the nation right now. And if you enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this one. Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to subscribe for more stories that bring the past to life.